Recording in progress. Welcome to episode negative point 5 of the Rise Up Odyssey podcast. I am your host, Danny, with my co host, Haley. Today, we're going to start with our day in the life. Couple things that Realize sent you on people going barefoot. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. I opened it up and all of a sudden there's this couple with like 20 pairs of shoes in the camera, and they cut the bottom of their shoes out. I think every pair they own, they did this because they
Yep.
enjoy walking barefoot so much that they came up with this ingenious idea so they can walk around in public places barefoot but discreetly. So
Yes.
I thought it was genius, but I'm not sure I would ever do that.
I just think
You?
about, I don't know, are there benefits to walking barefoot? People always say there are. I don't see any. I haven't seen any personally. But I think that would be a little bit more research and stuff that we'd have to do. I just think about how dirty the gym floor is, you know?
I mean, people didn't always have shoes. Let's think of that. But I think shoes are for a purpose of like protection of the bottom of your feet. So as a kid, I mean, we go camping on the weekends at the lake and I would just walk around barefoot. That was something I did. I got pretty good at gravel walking and rock walking with bare feet. Probably now they're a little too fragile to walk across rocks and not feel pain. But I mean, if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. It's a matter of opinion. I would say I don't know about benefits. There's research about, those barefoot shoes and things like that are more natural. I think there are shoes that are good for your feet and there are shoes that are not. So even though they're walking barefoot, um, I'm not sure. I wish they would do a follow-up reel on how
Yeah.
it's going and if anyone has seen them, if their feet feel any different from not wearing, the support in their shoes. Just a follow up would be cool. Maybe you should reach out.
Yeah, I might shoot him a DM just for kicks. Be like, hey, can you make a part two? I'm intrigued.
And we have to
But yeah,
talk about it in our YouTube channel.
yeah, exactly. It's content for us. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, I think that that was a good story that we kind of came across earlier this week. And today has been a fun time just kind of getting our 75 hard tasks in. I think today's day
Mm.
32 for me, 35 for you, right?
Somewhere around, well,
Yeah,
yeah, somewhere around there. I
time
kind
is
of just
going by
keep doing
fast.
it and clicking the boxes. So, the more I can get done by noon or 1 o'clock, the better in my book. The longer I wait, the more procrastination wants to set in.
Yes, 100%. And one thing to share, a tidbit that I've been doing is trying to get one half in when I'm at the gym. Every time I go now, that's been my go-to. So I don't procrastinate it. And that kind of leads us into procrastination and why are we so good at it as humans? Um,
Well, one thing real quick. So
sure.
on that note, this weekend I walked to the gym my 45 minutes. I know you're not supposed to do them back to back, but it's the weekend. I got adult things to do like pick up dog poop in the backyard or do laundry, meal prep, usual stuff. So I was like, I am not carrying my gallon jug here. Let me show you for a visual. This giant thing on my walk to the gym. So I poured out some of the water contents into a more appropriate sized bottle, which is about 48 ounces. So it fit in my backpack I could carry. So, on that note, I also try to get as much of a half gallon done during my workout time, but I had to get a little creative today. That is
Ah,
my second.
good on you. Yeah, I'm on my second
Yeah.
too. I got three of these to go, these little Costco water bottles.
Oh, what waste. That's for another day.
Well, much like you, I didn't want to carry it on my walk this morning, so it's easy to go to the fridge and grab one of those instead of worrying about it.
I see, I see. But yeah, so I guess, walking into procrastination, we can kind of pivot into that now. Go ahead.
I was gonna say something along the lines of why this is episode -5 is probably a good, or -0.5 rather, probably a good thing to talk about real quick. So I am currently home in the Chicago Metroplex. So that is why we're doing episode -0.5 today, and maybe potentially episode -0.25 next week, depending on how things go, and when I can get back into my usual studio and have a better mic than this little lapel mic. Uh,
It sounds pretty good.
yeah, for $30, I hope that it sounds decent. It's
Mhm.
never going to be a studio mic, but we can dream. Anyway, so that kind of goes into procrastination, and I was going to ask you this question.
Mhm.
Do you think it's ever been good for humans to procrastinate? Like, do you think that there's some biology that we're wired to do so?
I mean, that's a loaded question that you didn't let me prep for. So what I think let's back up a little. What's procrastination?
I would say usually I have the Webster definition, but my
Well,
definition,
well, we could take a moment. You want me
we
to?
could
Okay,
take a
so
moment.
according to your favorite dictionary, well, wait, do you like Webster or Oxford? Is there a difference?
Webster usually.
Whatever. The other dictionary, it says procrastination, the act of delaying or postponing something.
Yes, that was pretty similar to my definition. I would say mine is basically not doing a task that you need to get done until you have to get it done.
Well, yeah. So then the AI friend of Google now says
Mm-hmm.
kind of like
Bard.
that. The act of delaying or putting off tasks until the last minute or past their deadline.
Yep. And so I know
So,
we were.
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I know we were talking about it this morning. Is hey, are we procrastinating making our intro episode today, or is this just something we had to get done? And I would say we committed to making 52 videos this year, and we never put a timeline on when the intro is coming out. And we had said at least 5 bad episodes. So if we make 6 or 7, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Bad to us. Hopefully, folks are still getting value out of it. And it's a lot more practice and adapting to change. I think that's been
Mhm.
good for both.
Right, I agree. We're getting practice in. We didn't skip this week. We're staying on track, and that was more of the important aspect for us. And so I'd say we're not really procrastinating because we're still doing what we said we would do and keeping our promise to ourselves.
Yes, I would agree with that. But I think the procrastination in our lives has always been a thing. And we can kind of talk about this summer and how we were procrastinating doing anything for ourselves. I remember when Hermosi's book came out, and was it mid-August? Was his big event with like 200,000 people?
It's all a blur, but I'll take your word for it.
I
Roughly,
think it was
yeah.
mid-August. And I remember this book coming out and all the hype, and he did a heck of a job with the marketing, for sure. He got me to buy the hat and 3 books, so he did a good job with the marketing. Um, I think we kind of had seen it as a beacon of light to basically start something, and we weren't really sure what it was just yet. Um, but I don't think it ended up becoming that beacon. We were on your porch or on the deck studying for what felt like hours of advertising and lead generation. And we're like, we don't have a product. We don't believe in anything yet. So it was just a lot of education, and it kind of caused some analysis paralysis, I feel like, with both of us.
Right, and even before that, we dived into his first book, $100 Million Offers. And I think we were trying to just force a product or force something because we probably were kind of angry at the situation we were put into of losing jobs, stability. It was scary. And so we're like, screw it. We're going to do our own thing. Because, I met you, I want to say 3 years prior to that, and you're always like, I'm going to do my own thing. And we talk about that so many times. And so I'm like, all right, this is the opportunity. We both have nothing to do. So let's figure it out. But, in the end, whether it's procrastination or not, I think it was a valuable lesson for us. And we learned a lot from the time we invested that we actually had at that moment, to kind of get an idea of the Hormozy way. And now we can just continue with our experiences since then and start plugging and playing some of his strategies that he did so well for his launch.
I would agree with that. I would also say that the timeline wasn't perfect either. Like we had thought, hey, this is the perfect time to do something, but sometimes it ends up being that you have way more going on that you want to actually take the leap because you realize that hey,
Mhm.
maybe the full time thing isn't what I really want to do. Now that we're both back into full time gigs and stuff like that, you kind of realize like, okay, maybe I still do want to do something on my own. Why am I procrastinating? And that's kind of when we came to early January, and we were like, all right, we're committing to this. We can do 52 videos and seeing how they go.
Right. I think it was a matter of a lot of self-discovery for ourselves. And in 2023, we had to figure out what we want, who we are, and what we want in the future and how we kind of align everything. So, you know, as I said, we tried to force things and now we're on a better trajectory. Start simple, stop over complexing things, stop analyzing, overthinking, all those things that you keep hearing on social media and other outlets of successful entrepreneurs, etc., however they define themselves. uh, they're like, don't do that, and we're like, how do you not? So it's just, it's been a constant battle of us trying to stop those bad behaviors that were causing this word of procrastination.
Exactly. And I think that, they always say, I don't know who coined this phrase, but depression is worrying about the past and anxiety is worrying about the future. And I feel like we were worrying about both at the same time in 2023 quite a bit.
it,
Those
and how
coming
many
back from that.
it, Right, and how many times have I said in the past month, "Let's just live in the present, Danny?"
Yeah, a ton, a ton. Because it's easy to just start overthinking. The wheels are turning, and where do you want to go, and how do you want to get there? How are you going to get there?
Mhm.
You just get exhausted.
Yeah. And we discussed earlier this morning, about kind of our relationship and how we came to be. You walked into a gym. I was the manager on the fitness side and a coach. You wanted a female trainer. I was your only option. And so fast forward, that's how we got here. But along the way, it was kind of a mentorship. You came in, you trusted me. We started out slow. You weren't so sure about it. And go ahead and share a little bit of the 3-year journey in a 1 minute summary, 2 minute.
Yeah, I would say I was sitting at the downtown Marriott, and I was like, okay, well, I need to get back into shape. How am I going to do that? Because lifetime is $1,200 for training a month. Now that I have an apartment and adult responsibilities that because I just signed a lease and I was at the hotel right before I signed the lease, like, what am I going to do? So then I just started calling around all the gyms in the area and found that particular one and reached out to them and said, hey, if I want to train, 3 times a week at the time, how much would that cost? And it was like half the price. I said, okay, well, let me give this a shot. And then I'm like, well, do you have a female trainer? And they're like, yeah. And, I got you. And I walked in. Um, it was it was like mid August, started training. And I think it would took probably 6-ish months to get like the trust level to that point. Um, And then I think it was a lot of, I think we're pretty close at this point. And then another year would go by and be like, oh no, we're closer now. Another year would go by and oh, we're closer now. And then 23 hit and we're like, oh shit, I didn't know you at all. And then you really get to know somebody when you spend, what was it, like 8 hours a day? It was like a job when we both had no jobs. So
Yeah. But I think it was good for both of us to have that company and not go down a dark hole even further. So
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I had the pleasure of not working 2 months before you did. And how much time would I spend at the gym?
a bit.
You're like,
But
I got nothing to
we
do. I'll be here 3 hours.
right. We've been through a lot in that little bit of time, and I'm married, just to put that out there. There's nothing more other than friendship here. In
Yes.
case anyone was just curious.
Yeah.
So it's just a really great friendship that we have, and the trust and what we've built over time. And I always love the first 6 months of awkwardness and trying to open y'all up and see what I can get out of you. And it's a vulnerability factor. I share a little bit about my life, you share a little bit of yours, and eventually it gets more comfortable, natural, and see where it goes. And here we are.
Yeah. Almost
But
4 years.
that's crazy. 4 years, dang. Uh, but lately, in 2023, I think a lot of our growth was figuring out how to go from a mentorship coaching client thing to now wanting to maybe be like business partners, starting our thing together. And that's been a whole nother level of getting to know each other and a lot of tension, crucial conversations, as a book would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we've done a really good job at communicating, opening up, saying what's on our minds, and working through it together.
I would agree with that. I would also say that communication is important in any relationship, friendship, anything. Um,
Mhm.
that's the key. And being able to be open and vulnerable, and you might not like what the other person has to say. And we found that out a few times. Then you also learn like working styles and can I
Yeah.
work with this person long term? All that kind of stuff too. You don't really think about.
And, and it's to work on our relationships with ourselves and relationships with other people. And so I think it's been quite the combination of trying to figure out again who we are, our relationship stronger as well. And there's other aspects in my life, like my spouse and family and friends, that I'm also trying to be more aware of and make sure I'm there for them in the capacity I should be.
It all takes time, as we say. It's a slow learning process, and being aware is, I
Yeah.
think, the hardest part. Is just knowing that there's a problem if there ever is one, and then working on it and getting
Hmm.
those are the actionable steps, right? First thing's awareness, figuring out what's
Hmm.
going on, and then start working towards the problem. It takes a lot of self reflection.
It does, for sure. But
Took us a lot of
so
self
that's
reflection.
yeah, that's a lot of the boring stuff. How we got to be, we had this whole great idea of starting our thing in the summer with the Alex Ramosi way, name drop again. And it just wasn't the solution. We then built a workbook, published it on Amazon, and had complete like paralysis. We couldn't ask for a sale. And we're just like, all right, that didn't work. So that fast forwards to this podcast you sent me, the 100th one, probably in a matter of a month. No, that's
I
exaggeration.
think you
And you
send
want to
me more
tell,
of them.
oh, be quiet, probably, or just random things.
Yes.
So go ahead and give us a quick insight of what I'm talking about, the podcast you sent me, and kind of how that was a pivot or to light the flame, as we'd say, to a fire we were kindling.
Yeah, I sent you the Ali Abdal podcast. It was like deep dive with Ali Abdal, and it was the episode that he had Noah Kagan on recently. And Noah just released a new book called was it $1 Million Weekend?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and I thought that I've known about Noah for probably the last 3 4 years. Yes, that's it.
Looks nice. So fancy and green like money.
People should go and buy the book. It's a good book. But yeah, we started that recently, and the entire podcast was about starting and getting away from the analysis paralysis, figuring out what exactly is going on. Why don't you have the ability to start? Because everybody says they want to do something, but how many actually do? And then how many of those businesses fail? You know, I think it's 90% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years. So how do you
Mhm.
become in that 10%?
You fail first, succeed later.
Exactly. Like our workbook.
Oh,
Which,
buddy.
to be fair, the workbook I feel like is a good piece of content. I think it could genuinely help people. I think we just didn't believe in it as much as we should have at the time, and
Mhm.
didn't have, excuse my language, the balls to ask for the sale or to be able to tell our friends about it, you know?
Yeah, but we realized it. We went through the workbook, completed there, and I think there was a lot of value in it for ourselves, especially the journaling or writing aspect of it. We don't want to give too much away in case we do decide to purpose it at some point. We'll see. But
Yeah.
yeah, we got started, complete roadblock, stop sign, let us go. So I was like, fine, I will do the thing that I hate the most. And we've talked about this before, and here we are because I know it's something you've always wanted to do, and it would help me grow.
Yeah. I
So
feel
we
like it
said
has already.
52 videos, and
I feel like it
right, yeah,
genuinely has already.
it's not so bad about what
I'd say I think it genuinely has already made you better. It's made me
and
better.
you.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I
it's
was
made me
like,
better. It's not
yeah,
as
I
scary
agree.
anymore.
No, no, now we can just kind of banter, and if someone watches this, then good on them. Otherwise, it's more for us to get used to this, figure out what we want to say, how we make it more entertaining. There's a lot to learn still. It's great.
Mhm.
But back
Well,
back from our tangent.
yes,
No, maybe? Okay.
yes. But finishing it off, I think that Noah's book had like actionable steps for us versus Hermosi's book, which had actionable steps, but for us, it wasn't what we wanted, right? It was more so a little bit too advanced for what we were looking for. Whereas Noah's like, hey, go get somebody to Venmo you $1. Hermosi's like, DM 100 people this script. And yeah, it's a little bit easier to just start. And I think that's what we needed to continue igniting the
Mhm.
flame.
And I think both will be fantastic resources as long as we follow through. And that's something um our discussion of 75 hard, it was the follow through of it. We said, "Hey, we're going to do this," and we did it. So it's like winning each day, as Andy Frisella says, yeah, don't
Says,
ask. That was lovely.
says, yeah,
Yeah,
says,
says words are hard today. Uh and so with this, now we just need to follow through.
yes,
What was the other? Oh, he says, what is it now, not how, correct? What's that mean to you?
yes. Not worrying about how you're going to get there, but just doing something. Action takes away all the anxiety.
Mhm. Well, he said so far the two things are not getting started and not asking for the sale, essentially.
Hmm. Well, we haven't done, well, we've done one of those. We've started. That's what this is. And then it's asking. That's going to be the next tangent. That's probably going to be our day in the life next week, honestly.
How
Is
the dollar ask went.
yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
But that's probably what we're going to commit to next week and finish up today's episode.
Yeah, and the other thing in chapter one so far that I've read is the freedom number. And that's something you and I have discussed privately. But he
Yes.
does say to find a freedom number that you feel at that point you can just fully commit to your business if that's what you want to do.
Yes, exactly. So you just need to find exactly what that number is for you and go from there.
Yeah. So we've come a long ways. We're getting started one little step at a time and not overthink or jump into it too fast as we'd call it and not learn to swim. We're learning to swim.
Slowly but steadily.
Yes. Some people can jump in and they're just fine, but you know. We'll see where the adventure takes us.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's about it. That's episode negative point five of
Mhm.
the Rise of Odyssey podcast. Our host, Danny, my co-host Haley. And we hope you guys have a good day. Choose to rise up.